Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video. Disclaimer: none of the events mentioned are true. No idol is being hung in the video. Don't idol have any negative role. Let's start our video. And when who froze, his little mouth fell open. His heart raced, though he didn't know why. Something about the man's face, his eyes, the way he carried himself, it tugged at something deep inside me. He tugged Jimin's sleeve gently. Mommy, look. Jimin busy checking her grocery list, barely glancing up. The moment her eyes landed on the man, her breath caught in her throat. Jungkook, the head of Korea's most powerful company, the man whose face was plastered across every magazine and television screen, the man who lived in a world so far removed from there, it felt like a dream. Her grip on Minho's hand tightened instinctively. Don't look, baby. Let's go this way. But Minho wouldn't move. His eyes sparkled with something fierce and certain. Mommy, that's him. That's my Dada. Jimin's heart dropped. What? No. Minho? Yes, Minho interrupted, his little finger pointing at Jungkook with unshakable conviction. I know it. I feel it. That's my Dada. Panic flooded Jimin. She bent down, holding his shoulders firmly. Listen to me, sweetheart. That man is not your father. You can't say things like that. People won't understand. But Minhu was so stubborn. He shook his head, his eyes never letting go the gaze of Jungkook. The little boy insisted that he's the father. But Jimin was not believing it. I know it, mommy. You always said to listen to my heart. And my heart says it's him. Jimin's lips trembled. She had indeed taught him that because their life was so full of struggles. She had always told him, hold on to kindness, to love, the voice of his heart. And now it was being used against her. Before she could stop him, Minho wriggled free from her grip and darted forward, waving through the crowd with surprising speed. Dada! The shout echoed across the plaza. Heads turned, cameras flashed brighter. Jungkook himself stopped mid-step, confusion flickering across his face as he looked around. And then he saw the small boy running toward him, arms outstretched, his face glowing with joy. The world seemed to freeze. Jungkook is now in a battlefield as the boy attached onto his leg, looking up at him as though he were the sun itself. Dada, I found you. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Was Jeon Jungkook secretly a father? Was this his hidden child? Reporters lifted their cameras higher, eager for the scandal. Jungkook's face had denied instantly. He grabbed the boy by the shoulder and pushed him back gently but firmly. What nonsense are you thinking about? I am not your dada. But Minho only giggled, holding on to Jungkook's sleeve. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I knew it. I finally found you. Jimin arrived breathless, her face pale with terror. She scooped Minho up into her arms, bowing repeatedly to Jungkook. I'm so sorry, sir. Please forgive me. He doesn't know what he's saying. Jungkook's sharp gaze swept over her. Recognition flickered. He had seen her before, working in a restaurant, struggling with her son. Now, here she was, standing before him again. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. He narrowed his eyes. Is this kind some kind of scam? Jimin's head shot up, her eyes wide with shock. What? No, I would never. Do you think you can use your child to trap me? To force a connection? How convenient. Having him call me Dada in front of cameras? His voice was low. I see. Every word dripping with suspicion. Tears stung Jimin's eyes, but she shook her head fiercely. I swear, it's not like that. I don't know why he just said that. He just, her voice broke and she clutched Minho tighter, as if shielding him from Jungkook's cruel words. Jungkook's gaze shifted to the boy. Minho wasn't cried. He wasn't scared. Instead, he was staring at Jungkook with wide, shining eyes, filled with innocence. Dada, Minho whispered again, after this time, as though it were the most natural truth in the world. For the first time, Jungkook felt something shift inside him. It wasn't anger, nor annoyance. It was something far more dangerous. Conflict. The plaza still blurs with whispers, even after Jimin hurried away, clutching Minho tight to her chest. Her heart pounded against her ribs, shame burning in her cheeks. She didn't dare look back, but she knew the eyes of hundreds had followed her retreat. Mommy, Minho mumbled against her shoulder. She stopped in a quiet alley, lowering him to the ground. Why did you do that, Minho? Her voice trembled, sharper than she intended. His little face fell, but his eyes remained stubborn. Because it's my daughter, I know it. Jimin crouched, holding his tiny hands. Baby, you can't just run to strangers like that. He isn't your father. He's a very important person. Someone who doesn't even know us. But he looked at me like he knew me when he argued. His voice soft but steady. And when I saw him, something inside me said, that's him. Do you believe me, mommy? Her chest tightened. How could she fight against his innocent conviction? Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to shake her head. Sometimes our heart plays tricks on us. He isn't your father. Please, Minho. Don't call him that again. Promise me? Promise me that you will never do that? Minho lowered his gaze, biting his lower lips, and he didn't promise. Meanwhile, Jungkook sat in the black back of his car, silence heavy around him. His driver said nothing, wisely keeping his eyes on the road. Jungkook's fist rested on his knees, his jaw clenched tight. The scene replayed in his mind again and again. The boy's eager arm, his innocent smile, his unwavering certainty, the woman's desperate apologies, her trembling voice, pathetic. Jungkook muttered under his breath, though he wasn't sure if he was insulting her, the child, or himself for caring at all. His phone buzzed. It was his assistant. Sir, the tabloids already picked up on the incident. They are speculating about the child. Should we release a statement? Jungkook's eyes darkened. Deny everything. The boy is not mine. Yes, sir. The call ended, but Jungkook's chest still felt tight. Days passed, but peace refused to return. At work, he found his mind wandering during meetings. At night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He told himself it was annoyance, nothing more. The boy had embraced him in public, threatened his reputation. That was why he couldn't stop thinking about it. But deep down, Jungkook knew it wasn't just that. It was the boy eyes. They weren't greedy, weren't calculating, or manipulative like everyone else, like the other people sees at him with greedy eyes, with other ambitions. They were pure, honest, believing. He had never been looked at that way before. And the woman, Park Jimin, he remembered her bowing so low that her shoulders shook. Remembered the cracks in her voice as she begged him to believe it wasn't a scam. Most women who tried to trap him with lies use confidence, not desperation. So why had she looked so painfully sincere? One evening, unable to resist, Jungkook gave into his curiosity. Find out everything about Park Jimin, he ordered his investigator. The report came quickly. Orphan, no family ties, single mother since 18, works multiple jobs, restaurant server cleaner, occasional factory shifts, known for being hardworking but quiet. Neighbors describe him as kind, polite, and struggling. Her son Park Min-ho, age 4, no father, listen on record. Jungkook's fingers tightened around the papers. There was nothing suspicious, no hidden agenda, no evidence. She had plotted to use her child against him. And yet, why did her son believe so firmly that Jungkook was his father? Thus the question arose him. And that weekend, Jimin left her apartment to buy vegetables nearby the market. And who skipped along beside her, humming happily. Life had gone back to normal, at least on the surface, but every time they passed a billboard with Jungkook's face on it, Minho would point and whisper, Dada. Jimin would hush him quickly, fear gnawing at her insides. She didn't notice the black car parked down the street or the sharp eyes watching from inside. Jungkook had come himself this time, needing to see them again with his own eyes. He watched as Jimin haggled gently with the vendor, carefully counting every coin. He saw how she smiled at her son, even when exhaustion weighed down her frame. He saw how Minho clung to her hand, laughing at something she whispered. It was ordinary, messy, humble, warm, and it shook him more than any luxury ever had. Their next encounter happened by incident or by fate. Jimin was working at the restaurant when the bell above the door jingled. She looked up and her blood turned to face. Jungkook stood there, tall and imposing, his presence filling the small space instantly. Whispers ripped along the staff. What was John Jungkook doing in a cheap restaurant like this? Jimin's heart pounded. She ducked her head, hoping he wouldn't notice her, but of course his eyes found her immediately. Table for one, he said coldly. She guided him to a corner table, her hand trembling as she sat down the menu. What would you like to order, sir? His gaze pinned her in place. The truth. Her breath caught. I want to know why your son calls me his father. Jungkook continued, voice low but sharp. Is it something you told him? A scheme to use me? Or his eyes narrowed. Or is there something you are hiding? Jimin's lips parted, but no sound came out. She shook her head furiously. No, I swear it's not like that. I never told him anything. He just he just saw you one day and he her voice broke. He believes it in his heart, that's all. Jungkook studied her, searching for crack in her story. She looked terrified, but no deceitful. Her hands twisted the hem of her apron. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. Finally he spoke. You expect me to believe that a child randomly decided I was his father? Jimin lifted her chin, surprising even herself with her sudden boldness. Yes, because that's exactly what happened. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Jungkook leaned back, his expression unreadable. If this is truly innocent, then keep your son away from me. I don't have time for child fantasies. Okay? Small voice called out, Dada! Jungkook froze. He turned slowly. Minho had wandered in, carrying his mother's empty lunchbox, his eyes lighting up at the sight of Jungkook. Dada, you are here? He chipped, running toward him with open arms. Jimin gasped, rushing to stop him. But Minho had already wrapped himself around Jungkook's legs. The man looked down, and for the briefest second, something flickered across his cold eyes. Confusion, frustration, and something softer, something dangerously close to longing. He should have pushed the boy away. He should have left without a word. But he didn't move. That night, Jungkook sat in his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. He could still feel the warmth of Minho's little hands on his leg. Still hear the boy's voice calling him Dada with such certainty. He hated it, and yet he couldn't stop thinking about it. Why did this child, who had nothing, look at him as if he were something, his everything? Why did this woman, who struggled just to survive, carry herself with more certain sincerity than anyone in this glittering world? For the first time in years, Jeon Jungkook, the man who trusted no one, felt conflicted, and he didn't know if he wanted the feeling to end or not. All it took was one innocent word from a small boy's lips, shouted in the middle of a crowded plaza, to shake the seemingly untouchable life of Jungkook. He had been returning from a high profile meeting surrounded by his security, his assistant trailing behind, when he heard the shrill cry of a child. Dada! Sound was so clear, so filled with certainty, that Jungkook froze mid-set. His eyes searched for a source, and then he saw him, a little boy with wide sparkling eyes, running straight towards him, arms stretched in unquestionable excitement. The boy clung to his leg with a smile as pure as spring. Dada, he repeated, softer this time, but still firm, as though there could be no mistake. Jungkook rose knitting. He wasn't married. He didn't have children. He had built walls of ice around his heart and life to keep such ties away. So how did this child call me that? Coldness repeated, confusion in an instant. I'm not your Dada kid, Jungkook said sharply, his voice carrying the authority of a man used to commanding boardrooms and silencing crowd. People around gasped at the harshness directed towards the little boy. But their whispers quickly grew louder as cameras clicked and phones recorded. Jeon Jungkook, hires to Korea's largest conglomerate, caught on camera with a child clinging to him and calling him Dada. It was a scandal waiting to erupt, and erupt it did. By evening, headlines blazed across social media and gossip outlets. Secret child, Jeon Jungkook, hidden family. Photos of Minho holding Jungkook legs spread like wildfire. Speculation piled on top of speculation. If Jungkook had a child, who was the mother? Was he secretly married? Or was this evidence of some scandalous affair? The truth, however, was far more complicated. The little boy Minho belonged to Jimin, a poor orphan girl who had known nothing but hardship. From the moment she opened her eyes to the world, Jimin had lost her parents young, thrown into a system that never cared for her. She grew up learning to fight her own battles, sometimes hungry, sometimes homeless, yet always clutching onto a fragile dignity that poverty couldn't strip away. By the time she was barely out of her teenage years, she had become a mother. Life had been merciless, but she never allowed that cruelty to touch Minho. Every bruise she from our work, every tear she shed in silence, was hidden behind a smile when she looked at her son. Jimin worked multiple jobs, waiting tables, cleaning, sometimes singing at small local cafes when her voice was her only strength left to sell. She shielded Minho from bitterness of their life, teaching him kindness, honesty, and love. She would often call him her Seoul cherry, telling him that even in the concrete jungle of Seoul, He was her blooming flower. That nickname became Minho's identity. And when he saw Jungkook in the plaza, tall, handsome, powerful, yet with a face strangely familiar from a faded photo Jimin once had hidden in her drawer, his innocent heart leapt to a conclusion only a child could make. That was his Dada, Seoul Cherry's Dada. Jimin had been horrified that day. She had chased after Minho, her face pale with embarrassment as cameras captured everything. She tried to pry her son away, whispering apologies to Jungkook, who looked at her with cold suspicion of a man used to being targeted. Keep your child under your control, he had said icily before walking away, leaving Jimin trembling in the middle of the plaza. But the damage was done. The media had their story, and neither Jimin nor Jungkook could escape it. The whispers reached Jungkook's family within hours. His mother, always concerned with prestige, confronted him with short words. Do you have something to tell us, Jungkook? A hidden wife? An illegitimate child? Do you realize what this could do to our family's reputation? And this is the story of the end. Hope you guys like the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. If you want me some changing in this video, you will comment down and don't forget to like. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.